Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, now I call to order this regular meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and we'll begin with a few introductory comments. The County Planning Commission will first take action on the consent agenda. After that action has been taken, the County and Hartford Planning Commissions will meet jointly to discuss item 1 on the agenda. Following item 1, the County Planning Commission will continue with the regular agenda items. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, again, please make sure that your cell phone is turned off. Any final action taken on conditional use permit requests will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by April 1st at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on April 23rd at 9:15. Any final actions taken on the rezoning and text amendment applications tonight will be referred to the County Commission for a public hearing on April 23rd at 9:15 a.m. Meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. The minutes from the February 25th meeting are included as part of the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission members to any item listed on the consent agenda? Okay. Next, I will read each item. Is that where I'm supposed to go? Okay, next I will read each item on the consent agenda. And if any member of the audience objects to the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Okay, so item number 2 is approval of the minutes from February 25th. Item number 3 is a zoning ordinance text amendment to amend the 1990 revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County. The location is 1/2 mile south of Iverson Crossing intersection. Item number 4, conditional use permit to replace an existing mobile home and to transfer 1 residential building eligibility. And this is located at Buffalo Trading Post. Okay. And we have 1 more item on the consent agenda, and that's a conditional use permit to transfer 1 residential building eligibility, and this is located in Corson. Okay, are there any objections to any of those items from the audience? All right, so if there's no objections, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so all of those items have been approved. Everything I just read has been approved, and so if your item was already talked about, then you're free to leave. All right, now I'm going to call this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Hartford Planning Commission. The 2 planning commissions work together. Should I read this?
No, just 1 planning commission.
Well, we're just one of us here.
Yes.
Because we don't. Do you want to just report on item number 1? We'll just go on. I'm not sure how this works. It's new territory.
Yes, it's a little messy. Item 1 is the preliminary subdivision plan for the Meadows development, which is located adjacent to the city of Hartford, as shown in the map in the red. Hartford city attorney has determined that Hartford does not need to be here tonight to take action. County attorney has stated that we need to move for a deferral from staff, and so that's our recommendation on this item tonight, to defer to the April 23rd meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion for deferral to April 23rd meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? All right.
Madam Chairman, if I could just, we will at some time be seeing this preliminary plan, and if the staff could just give us, at the time we hear it, when we do look at the preliminary plan, just a reminder again of the scope with which we can critique and change and modify those plans.
Sure.
I grew up on my years when I was in the city, and we got into the size of bushes, and really very, very detailed. But we don't do it as often as a county, and I'm a little foggy. So I think a reminder to us might be helpful, so that we don't just rubber stamp, or we really get into it. Thank you.
Glad to do that.
Okay, very good. Okay, that item has been deferred to April. And then we have item number 6. Ryan? No, Ryan's not here. Okay, sorry.
I forgot I
You're not-
needed to be up there. Yeah, Ryan couldn't make it tonight, so. This is a request rezoning number 13-001 to rezone property from A1 agricultural to RR residential. Petitioner is Lindsay Baker, Rick Van Zee. And the location is approximately 4.5 miles west of Sioux Falls, and it's in section 7 of Wayne Township, shown as the little red square there on the screen. The petitioner is proposing to rezone 1.99 acres, and the reason for that size is that would be under 2 acres, and thereby only allow 1 residential structure and not 2. The land in this area is zoned A1 agricultural, and there's some RC recreation conservation along some creek there. There are a number of housing units that are already in existence that you can see in the subdivided land there. Within half a mile of this area, there are 14 single-family dwellings, and within 1 mile, there are 37 single-family dwellings. Ryan calculated the number of building eligibilities that are also in this area and found that there are 4 located to the north, 4 to the west, and 2 to the south. So those are eligibilities that have not been used at this time. The petitioner did try to approach the people that had the adjoining land, and none of them were willing at this time to sell a building eligibility to them. They would like to build on this site as it is in Lindsay's family. Her grandfather had owned the land, and so they would like to continue living in the same area as their family has been. While there are a number of rural dwellings in this area, this is not a transition area, which shows where change should occur from agricultural land to urban land use. And so to rezone this to rural residential would be considered a spot zoning in this area. There are no urban services available or no utilities, and the comprehensive plan maintains the use of density zoning in this part of the county. Staff does not feel that this meets the comprehensive plan and is recommending denial of the rezoning request. Petitioners are here tonight as well.
Okay, is there any questions for Pat? All right, thank you. Is the petitioner here? Do you want to step up and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Greg Van Zee,
I'm Lindsay Baker.
and as Pat said back in November, that they're contacting all the neighbors to try to purchase an eligibility so we could build their first home out there. And the information they gave me, there's only 2 to the north and 3 to the north and 2 to the west. And back in November, when I first called the planning and zoning office, they told me there was an eligibility still left on her grandfather's property. So we got excited and started moving forward with plans, and 2-3 weeks later, her grandpa gets a letter in the mail saying their office messed up and said there is no eligibility now. So ever since then, I've been, we've been working on trying to get one to build their first home. I think it was 25 years ago, her grandpa told me he dug rural water down to the south fence line of that property for future use, but he never did. And Lindsay grew up out there on that property and just both like to live in the country and build their first home. And I think you guys have a floor plan of the house we'd like to build. If it's a big deal, I guess.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really impact our decision, but
Yeah.
it sounds
But
like
it's-
you kind of moved forward on some plans that aren't working out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to all the neighbors that have eligibilities, and they all seem real nice about it, but the Meyer family that has the majority of the eligibilities around that property, Phyllis is the owner, and she isn't doing so well, and I've only talked to her son Gary, and at the time, he didn't want to do anything because his mother is bad health, so this is kind of her last resort.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Greg or Lindsay?
Whereabouts did your grandparents live then? On the map there, we see the same thing down below here, by the way.
That one just to the north, a little square. Well, that's where.
On the
She
intersection
grew
of the
Yep,
road?
we grew up right there.
Okay.
Yep. We moved out of that house when I was 18, so.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to this item? All right. Oh, you want to? Sure. State your name and address and go ahead and make your comments.
My name's Greg Hartman. I own the property that's immediately adjoining to the south of the requested development. And really, I guess my only question, me and my wife recently acquired that ground to the south, and in doing so, we're looking at also getting out into the country and getting away from the development we're currently in. And I guess my concern is going forward, if this is granted, then what does that mean, you know, for some of the other eligibilities that could also be granted? And then I guess just looking at my ground, you know, we own around 16 acres down there now. Does that mean that we also will be able to, you know, get further eligibilities in the future? Because as Sioux Falls expands out in that direction, I think that ground will become worth more money. So just knowing where we sit, because I think we're going to break ground in about a month. So how to position our house and whatnot.
Anybody else? All right.
Well, this is what I absolutely agree with the staff on this. This is not only spot zoning, it's what we call generating eligibility, what there is none. And once again, that sets a really bad precedence for us to deal with in the future. We should grant this. I'd vote for denial as stated.
Okay, we have a motion for denial.
Second.
And a second. Any additional comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that rezoning is denied. Item number 7, let's see, Justin.
The subject property is located on the north side of South Dakota Highway 42, 1/3 mile east of intersection South Dakota Highway 11 and Highway 42. The property is currently zoned A1 agricultural and has been used as a nursery and landscape business. Many of you probably know it as Pre-Heim Landscaping out there. The land surrounding the property, as well as the property, is all zoned A1 agricultural. This request is to rezone the property from A1 agricultural to the I1 light industrial district for the purpose of sale. The current buildings, as I stated, have previously been used for the storage of materials and equipment for the nursery and landscaping businesses. Currently, however, the A1, they wish to sell these as a commercial property, as commercial buildings. Therefore, the A1 agricultural district won't provide very many commercial uses that could be approved besides a nursery or landscaping business out there. Looking at what we have for plans in the county, on November 22nd, 2011, Minnehaha County Commission adopted the Red Rock Corridor Plan for which this area is located in. According to that future land use map of the Red Rock Corridor, this property is represented as agricultural use, which the property is already currently zoned. The plan does call out for commercial uses at the Iverson Crossing intersection, or at the intersection of the two highways over here. But it does not call out, it calls out for commercial in those areas, but does not call out for light industrial in those areas. Extending beyond what the plan has called out for commercial uses in the area would provide a spot zoning, which could further lead to strip development along the highway, which is what the corridor plan was trying to address and prevent when it was adopted. Staff believes that the request to rezone the property from A1 agricultural to I1 light industrial is inconsistent with the corridor plan, and therefore is recommending denial of rezoning 13-002. This is just a zoomed in view of the property. As you can see, let me zoom out currently. So currently, this is owned by Preheim, as well as this area here. This is where they grow their trees. There's about 11 acres, I believe, over here. And then there's 2 lots here in which the buildings are located on, and that's what's requested for rezoning, approximately 7 acres here. So that we zoom into these 7 acres, you can see the existing facilities. They do have a nice, landscaping here that, kind of buffers the buildings from the highway. There are, 2 large buildings on the property. They use back here for storage of different aggregate or sand and things that they use for the landscaping business, as well as underneath the fruit barn that's here, as well as some plant growth that's on the west side of the building. This is looking at the current zoning map for the corridor and just zooming into our area here. As you can see, currently the property is zoned ag, the surrounding property is zoned ag. Over here is where the vet clinic is on the intersection of the 2 highways, so that's what's zoned commercial here. And this property down here is PD, but it is currently zoned for commercial uses down there. The next map here, this is the Red Rock Corridor future land use map. So this is the plan that I was referring to. Zooming into the area, as you can see at the intersection, we have called out commercial uses, which do extend a little bit onto the Preheim property where the trees were growing. But the subject property does expand beyond what was called out, and by expanding, this far out, then we will lead to, more of a strip development along that could potentially fill in to be a strip development along here. Just quick pictures of the buildings that are out there, just to give you an idea of what the buildings look like. Just big metal pole buildings. They do have, I believe this building has some offices in it, and some, restroom facilities. But the biggest purpose for the buildings currently is just the storage of their equipment and their supplies for the nursery and the landscaping business. This is looking to the west from the driveway. You can see their sign there. Just to look along Highway 42. This is looking to the east. They do have a 40-foot driveway entrance here, so there's plenty of room to get in and out on that. Just another view of the buildings with the hoop barns in the back. Let's see, and this is back behind. You can see that they have their stored sand and aggregate underneath the hoop barn, and just back behind the buildings. So if there's any questions for me at this time, I can answer those. A representative for the property is here today to speak on behalf of the petition.
Any questions?
Dustin, I know we have to respect the amount of time you guys spent on the Red Rock Corridor, because that was quite a project. When you were viewing this, though, whenever you go by there, it looks commercial. It always has. So was that something you just kind of got overlooked in the process? Or was it more the concern of the strip mall thing?
It's more the concern of when we went through this plan, we called out, and unfortunately I don't have this map here, but we called out basically 4 focus areas along the corridor to concentrate that development into. And the focus areas were, this intersection up here around 26th Street. The other one was Iverson Crossing intersection. Rowena was a focus area, and then what we considered the gateway down here at the state border was the other focus area. And we used those focus areas to kind of concentrate commercial or light industrial district or uses. In this case, when we looked at this focus area for the Iverson Crossing, this is how we did expand. I think that focus area did expand out this far, but we didn't believe that the commercial uses should expand out that far, even though it is a commercial use that was there, but it is allowed under the ag district, and so that's kind of why we didn't want to expand too far out here because then we'd have to do it down here, and then it's almost, well, here's another intersection, why not expand it, you know, and then basically you're creating a strip all the way across a half-mile stretch there, or a mile stretch.
I guess I could picture our trailer manufacturer in this place instead of that little piece of zoning.
Well,
That's kind of what, you know, since
That's
you're here.
probably what they, a kind of a facility they probably should be operating out.
The
Any other
question.
questions?
So were the Preheims invited to the Red Rock corridor? What was their input on this stuff? Did they
I'm not
say-
sure if the Preheims attended any of those meetings. We did, when we first started this project, a notice went out to every property owner in the corridor, and numerous notices were sent out to them, as well as published in the papers and everything about the Red Rock corridor plan throughout the year and a half, 2 years we worked on it. So they were noticed of the project, and at that time, we did not hear anything from the Preheims at that time.
I agree that the property looks, pretty commercial. I mean, what could you do there for agriculture except maybe dry tobacco or something? Could it be a dairy barn? I don't know. It's not very, you're not going to plant corn there. Thanks.
Dustin, I'm looking, but my understanding is that a nursery is allowed in the A1 Ag, but then they've got some retail sales and those types of things going there. Is what is being conducted there considered grandfathered in, or is it permitted use, or can you explain to me?
Well, I think
how it
I
operates
think
as
over
it
time
does?
it's kind of reached the fine line between what it initially was just a nursery, and a, kind of, in a landscaping business with probably no retail sales on site. As for whether they're having retail sales on site now, I guess I can't speak to that. But they have, I think, grown to a point to where they are probably maxing out what's allowed in the ag district currently.
But my understanding is this is before us, not because you guys, from an enforcement standpoint, where you think they're approaching the line as to whether or not they're approved in ag. It's that they desire to sell it and would like to be able to have more potential buyers, and thereby increase the value of the investment that they made in this property and probably amortized over a period of years.
Yes, so they wish to sell these buildings as commercial buildings, which, unless you're running a nursery or maybe a few of the commercial uses that, seed sales or something is allowed under the ag district that could operate out of this building. There are a few that, are ag commercial uses that are allowed under the ag district, but not as many as could be under a commercial or a light industrial zoning.
Another question. So the area to the west that they're currently growing trees on and stuff, would be dealt with separately by the sellers, etc.?
Yeah, when we were first in the discussions, they did think about rezoning the entire 17 acres to light industrial. I think our discussions at that time was that's going to be a hard thing to do in that area, because frankly the plan doesn't call out light industrial anywhere in the area. I mean, I guess it calls commercial out in the area, but not light industrial uses. So what the focus was to just focus on those buildings, because where the trees are planted, that could be used as a tree farm like it currently is, or it could be put back into ag ground. So.
Any additional questions for Dustin? All right, thank you. Are the petitioners here?
Good evening, Doug Brockhouse, Bender Commercial Real Estate, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, agent for the petitioner. Dustin did a great job of identifying what's there today and what our ultimate goal is. We were asked by the Preheims about 3 months ago to take a look at their property and consider possibly putting on the market and sell it for them. Mr. Preheim was challenged with some health issues and wanted to slow down and asked if we'd take a look and see if there's an opportunity to sell his property. Listed the property, and within a matter of a few days, Mr. Preheim passed away. So now we're dealing with Mrs. Preheim, and she's asked us to continue on with the possibility of essentially maximizing the market that she can present her property to and hopefully get sold. We took a look at what was there, went down and met with the people at the county. They were a great help. They pointed out the Red Rock Corridor, and at the beginning when the Red Rock Corridor was presented, I went to some of those meetings. I live out in that area, so I'm fairly familiar with the Red Rock Corridor. What we took a look at is, what I just hit the down? Okay. What we took a look at is how the property is currently being used, not how it's zoned today, but how it's being used. And if you take a look at the drawing, it's identified as a red, and in the red it indicates commercial or industrial use. So it's currently being used for a commercial or an industrial use. And I'd like to go back to your slides. Can I do that? Can you get back to your slides a little ways? Let's stop at that particular that slide's fine. A couple things that you'll notice on this slide is that at the intersection of the two highways, currently there is a veterinary clinic that sits on the property. And to the south, where the big red block is to the south, that is currently a rubble pit. And a lot of your building material, buildings that are being raised and concrete debris is being hauled into that particular area. Eventually that area will be hopefully filled in, and they'll convert that over to some sort of commercial development on that corner. If you go to the east a little ways, southeast of the Preheim property, there's a extremely large mining operation going on where they're mining the pink quartzite rock. And to the east of that, a little bit further, you have Schizos, bar, whatever they call it now, and next to that is a trailer manufacturing facility. So there is a somewhat of mixed use. On this particular slide, it shows the commercial having gone over a couple of lots from the corner. We're not asking to rezone the tree farm, the area to the west of the piece that we're looking at today. So let's go back to my slides for a second. Okay, as I said, currently it shows as being used for commercial / industrial. On this particular slide, it talks about the uses for the Red Rock Corridor and light industrial. It identifies, well, let's go at the top, commercial. It says that commercial are those uses that will be along the major roadways. And so, once again, the Preheim property is located along one of those major roadways. One of the first things that we addressed when we first took a look at this property, we met with the DOT to find out what the DOT's thoughts and concerns were, and they were okay with a driveway that's there. Their preference would not to be expanding that driveway, and with as large of area of a driveway that's there today, I think we're fine. And in the light industrial, it says it's intended to provide high amenity industrial development along the major roads. Once again, we're along the major roads and adjacent to, this is interesting, and adjacent to residential areas while allowing for slight heavier use if you go back inside it. So once again, we're located along the major roadways here. We are not asking in any way, shape, or form to approach an I-2 zone. I-2 zoning, like the way the property is being used, not the way it's zoned, but the way it's being used across the road with a quarry. I-2 would be heavy industrial type uses, the smokestacks and all that kind of stuff. We don't have natural gas, and we don't have water as far as rural water to this property. Because of the rock that's in that area, there are natural gas and rural water is not available. So this is fed by a well, and it's hooked to propane. So as far as doing large scale industrial type manufacturing, those type of things, we don't have the utility capability to conduct that. This is a slide that shows, as you've seen before, the future land use. And in this particular one, our property shows up as a white block as going back to agricultural. I can't see this property going back to being used as agricultural. This is probably the most telling slide that I have this evening. It shows the Iverson Crossing area, if you want to call that. It came out of the Red Rock book here, and it shows that that's their focal area. And if you read what it says about those focal areas, what the Iverson Crossing, it says that this area consists of an intersection of two major highways, Highways 42 and Highway 11, which the Minnehaha County Comprehensive Plan establishes as a desired location for commercial and industrial developments. Came out of their paperwork. So we feel that we're in the right location. Currently, there's already a lot of buffering out in front, and by changing this to industrial zoning, would allow us to expand the potential who we could sell the property to. You will, if we do change it to industrial and an industrial user comes in before you, you once again will have the opportunity to address conditional use permits. So those items such as screening, buffering, and along those lines would be addressed at those times. I want to bring up, I need to go back to your slides just for a second. Okay, now how do I go back? I got this. Now, in this slide, you'll see how there's already a large buffer area out in front of the property, and there's a row of trees that are planted along the eastern, the southern edge of the property towards the east. You'll see several rows of trees and a lot of equipment parked back in that area. That's the county's road equipment that's being stored there. And the hoop building you saw behind the building with the salt in it, that's county equipment and that type of, so this property is being, I think it's being leased to those type of people, so I'm open for questions.
I just want a clarification because you keep saying that Dustin showed your property as being commercial, but I see it as agricultural on the map. Dustin, can you clarify that?
Yeah, what we did in the map he showed was a map of existing land uses. When we did the corridor study, we did, and it's in the corridor plan under existing uses, we went and surveyed all the current properties. And because it is an ag/landscaping business, we considered it as commercial, as the current use. Because, if it was ag seed sales, we would consider it still as a commercial use, but it's zoned in agricultural. And so the other maps he was showing that were showing that it was white, that was actually our current zoning map, which, because it is zoned agricultural.
All right. Great, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Brockhouse?
Yes, Mr. Brockhouse, are you listing the business as well as the land, or the Preheims intend to retain the business and locate someplace else and just sell this property?
The initial intent was for the Preheims to sell this property and move a small part of that business probably down towards Canton, and the business would no longer exist in this area. They would probably, according to Kurt, now once again he's passed away, what was to maintain ownership of the trees in that tree farm. Now, we're not, once again, that's not part of this discussion, right, but to continue that. So the business itself, it will be going away.
Okay, so it's not a sale of the business where you would hope that you find someone that would continue to run the operation in that location.
That'd be nice, but that's a pretty limited buy pool.
It's not our problem.
I know.
Yeah.
Saying if they did that and they kept the tree farm part, what is the access to that tree farm part? Is the only access to it through that commercial or through the business?
Yeah.
Excellent question, Mark. Actually, today on the plat, it shows a private easement that comes in through the driveway, goes between the buildings, it meanders out that back driveway. If we get this rezoned and what the first thing, we've already had a discussion with Sayers to come in and put together a better access type of easement that would run right along the concrete in front, so you wouldn't have people driving through the property. They go along the front that would access it. The Aston family still owns all of the frontage from this property going to the west. They still own the old railroad strip of land, so there isn't that piece of where the tree farm is today is not accessible from the highway.
Any other questions for Mr. Brockhouse?
Just one, please. She said the county is renting that out currently, part of it?
That's my belief, is that's where they keep their trucks that they use for maintaining Highway 42. That's where they keep their salt and those type of items.
County or state?
Not the county.
It
It would have to be state.
It's a state, okay, the state.
Then we'll take the box. People need to be here.
Those state guys.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak to this item? All right. Motions, discussion?
I have a question, I guess, for staff. Are there any building eligibilities on this? Do we know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, this is one of those hard ones we get. Like I say, it looks commercial, but it's owned ag. And also, since he mentioned the fact that Bassum's owned the land along the tracks, guess what? Sam's gonna come in here and wanna have that zoned right out there for a strip mall. You can just see that coming. If you zone this commercial, that would be my only comment.
We have a motion? Further discussion? What do you think?
At the same time, it does not look like an agricultural operation. I mean, unless you were, selling seed or maybe an implement dealership or something like that, it looks, like a storage facility or something.
Part of me wonders, how does that get developed when it's zoned agriculture like that? Was that all approved?
Well, it was built as a nursery, and so they still have equipment and stuff they use for that nursery, which was what the buildings were for, to store that.
So all those buildings have been approved as part of an agricultural operation?
Yeah, as part of the conditional use permit that they had.
Yeah, and it required that you have on-site sales. I mean, you have growth area to do this type of business. They couldn't have just put these buildings out here and, ordered in plants like Hy-Vee or Lewis does and sold them. They had to have an area of growth.
The tree farm
is
the
required
operation.
to have it be allowed as an ag use.
I believe too, I can remember when they put this up, part of their deal was they were also cleaning parking lots and stuff. And
Yes, they were.
Street and sanding operation.
Phil Kappen spent a lot of time doing enforcement on this property.
That's what I thought. We heard this before.
The ink's not even dry on our corridor plan, and we go from a potentially commercially zoned on that map. We have ag between this and what we're being asked to take action on. We're going from ag to I-1, which doesn't have the same screening requirements and everything. I think Mr. Brockhouse is mistaken. I believe the red, I'm sitting here, if you leave that up, red doesn't say commercial or industrial, it says commercial. And yet the request is for industrial. I think that it's premature to rezone this. There may be a little bit of an enforcement issue with the current zoning, but I don't think we're in the business of being concerned terribly about whether he's got numerous buyers or not. Another business, if you choose to run a business in a less costly location, the two things you got to think about when you run a business is what's it cost to start and how do I get out of it when I want to sell it. And now we're being asked to help them get out of it. I move to deny based on it being inconsistent with the Red Rock Corridor plan.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'll say no.
All right, the rezoning has been denied.
I would say that it reminds me a little bit about a guy that builds a $5 million house and then can't find a buyer. Because if you can afford a $5 million house, you want to build your own. You don't want to build that funny looking thing and
Any other old business?
Yeah. I was going to inform you that we were told of an impending lawsuit last week on the Eastern Farmers Co-op agronomy building up at Colton, north of Colton. So
Neighbor across the road?
I believe that's who it is, yes. So
The gun club, I thought that got appealed to the county commission too, and I
it
didn't hear
did.
anything about that.
It was appealed, but then they had needed a continuation because both parties, the date of last Tuesday didn't work for either party. And
I just wondered why we.
April 9th.
I just don't think they're going to appeal themselves right into more regulations.
they haven't sent us enough rude emails yet.
The gun club is sending rude emails? Oh, somebody's sending rude emails regarding the gun club, okay.
And then also under old business, I wasn't here last Tuesday. I was on vacation, but I think Mike was at the meeting and discussed or can maybe fill you in on what action the county commission took on the rezoning for the planned development.
And basically,
I think we got.
it passed. I think we all got emails on that.
Yeah.
I thought what Jeff did was the right thing, was to delay it until they got their acts together and could work together. Kind of a sidebar to that, like I say, I've been talking to a lot of people since then and doing a little thinking of my own, and I think one of the requirements we, as a board, are not going to take out is the sanitary sewer requirement. Well, if you do a little cut and paste with their plan, if they would hook up to the sanitary sewer district, they could take the money they're investing in this sewer system, give half of it to the city of Hartford to get that line out there, and they would have another half of it available to do the improvements that are going to be required, like sidewalks, whether they believe that or not. That's going to happen from a safety perspective. And when you do that, there's room for 3 more units on that property without affecting the aesthetics of the development. It's going to be a learning process. So then it's all about selling property.
They could put a TIF in and pay for all those.
I wouldn't vote for a TIF, I can tell you that right now.
Well, all I'm just saying is that they could do that and get the infrastructure built.
Are we going to be allowed to talk about sidewalks and that?
Yeah,
Yes, that's why
with the preliminary plan.
That's what I understood we cannot talk about the width of the roads. That's been determined, so that's a non-issue.
That's right. That was determined in the plan development.
Commission thing was.
So I agree with you. I didn't know either.
Could the
But
county
we
commission
could
have
have
required wider streets at that meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have, but right now there's a whole legal discussion and I don't feel comfortable going into it without Kirsten being
Because I was
here,
gonna
but-
raise my hand when you said Hartford requires 37 foot of paved street, and I'm thinking 16 is 32, 18 and a half and 18 and a half is 37. They could be 18 and a half foot wide, and then you could actually pass a car that's parked on the street without driving in the dirt.
But I don't think we need to talk about things that we have no say in.
But that was interesting.
Well, if it's
That's background
if
of what
the
we do in
zoning
the
ordinance
future.
sets it, you cannot change that. That's
Yeah.
So
the
then what they
requirements of the
approved is-
district. It stands at this point. Unless we have some legal ruling elsewhere, but it's
So, as a plan, it's going to as a plan development?
plan development.
And because when the plan development was approved, the street widths were part of it, we can't go back and revise it without an amendment to the plan development.
Correct.
But if
Can
I
we
may,
propose an amendment to a plan development though, as a planning commission?
We can't.
I suppose anybody could, I don't know. You'd probably get your own lawsuit.
it might be a concession that they would make in return for something else.
Sure.
Like water.
Well, anyway, that's the action the planning commission, or the county commission took last Tuesday,
That Eastern Farmers thing, does that delay the development of that?
certainly.
How long will that take?
Well, it's hard to say.
So
Circuit
this
Court,
party
Supreme Court.
is not appealing, they are actually suing.
They're appealing the county commission's decision, so
The appeal-
they appeal to the circuit court, so they are in essence
They are
suing the county.
Does that usually take months or years?
At least months,
They're
potentially years.
aggrieved. It actually says they are aggrieved by the decision of the Minnehaha County Commission.
So when we approved that gravel pit by Goose RV Sales there, by Hartford there, that went all the way to Supreme Court.
Yeah, and that took at least a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah.
South
You know,
Dakota
of
Supreme
all the
Court
gravel
or what?
pits in this county, that is the neatest.
Yeah, it's nice.
Immaculate gravel, and there's actually an asphalt plant in it. And
Yeah.
You don't even know it.
Well,
That's really been impressive, what they've done.
so we
for
gave
gravel.
them, we gave Merlin Royce, I think, 10 years to extract the aggregate, and in the last 2 years, we probably will restore it, or did, I don't know. But they lost a couple of years of their lease on that to fight it in court. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. They lost, and then the Goose RV people said, well, it'd be okay if we moved the Hall Road a quarter mile to the north.
But we didn't move it, because that would have changed the whole CUP. But with the lawsuit, or, I mean, they're not, we'll just wait to see. It just all depends on when they want hearing date set.
It's interesting, Chester Farm Service, who, one time they sold their business and
On that planned development, you know, they haven't even talked to Sioux Valley Energy. I asked our engineers, they didn't even talk to them.
I mean, this
are
one,
they required
The
to?
one, yeah, well,
Yeah, we need to
they
see
got supply
utility
power
lines.
to them. And like they said, you know, these streets, you know, yeah, you can put the lines in and stuff, but 30, 40 years from now, when you gotta come back in and replace, and you gotta dig up everybody's yard, who's gonna be, you know?
Where are the easements, in other words?
yes,
Yeah.
that was one of Teresa Seidel's points she brought up, was where the utilities were located.
It just seems like we're being asked to hurry through that way too much.
Well, it just looks to me like somebody needs to do something on the
I will
cheap.
say on record that once something is filed by state law for the planning commission, you have 65 days to act.
We just act, but is
If-
deferral
no,
not action?
I don't think so. If you don't act,
Guess we can always-
it becomes law as it is given, so.
Send it on to the
So
county.
the next
commission,
meeting
let
is-
them do it.
Next meeting, we need to hear it, and I think we'll have a lot more answers by that time.
Well, I hope they keep working with people on it.
I see
I
them
do.
Well, they've
every
done
other
it.
day.
Please
Let
say
me-
that.
yes.
Both sides are not happy, so it's hard to work with people that you're unhappy with, but that's what we big people have to do.
Adjourned?
Move adjourned.
Yeah, I'm going home.
Okay.
She's gone already.
All right,